Merry meet. A question that I get asked about a lot is how can I learn to meditate better or how can I improve meditative practice? I get asked this question so often, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that spiritual people and witches, empaths, pagans, the like, realize how important meditation is, but it's elusive for so many. And a lot of this has to do with our perspective about meditation. So we get fixated on what meditation is and what it isn't. And that leads us to think that either we're not good enough at it or we're missing something. So if you've ever had trouble meditating or you're looking for some new techniques to add to an already existing practice, there's something for everyone in tonight's episode. So merry meet, I'm Aislin, this is Ask Aislin, and I'm here tonight sharing meditative techniques for witches. So welcome to those who are joining us. If you're here, say hi in the chat. I see Amy's here. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to be sharing these techniques. I saw a lot coming in. Hi, Cindy, Wendy, Pamela. Hi, everyone. So if you're with us live, you can leave questions, comments in the chat. I'll be looking at the chat as we go, and I'll be answering all the questions during the Q&A. And the questions don't have to be about meditation. They can be about anything related to witchcraft, shadow work, energy work. Hi, Angela. Hi, everybody. And of course, if you're watching this back on YouTube later, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Body Mind Witchcraft, and that way you won't miss any future episodes. So I'm going to dive right in, and let's start by talking about meditation. Okay? So, problem is with meditation is perception. So we have these ideas about what meditation is and about what it isn't. And a lot of it has to do with where meditation practices come from in the first place. So a lot of the texts that we read or that modern readers are reading and then summarizing back to us are ancient texts. They're coming from hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. And as you understand, the world is very different than it was hundreds and thousands of years ago, right? So we live in a very different place, a very different time. This world is busy. We have busy lives. We have loud noise. We have bright lights. This has disrupted the way that we live probably in a lot of ways, which is what makes meditation so important to us. And I think that's why most witches or spiritual people understand that there's a need for this in their lives, right? But they just maybe don't know how to do it or do it the right way. So the idea here is, sitting in a meditative state for several hours in an ashram in India is not a possibility for most of us. And yet we still cling to this idea that we have to just simply sit, in that Zen-like state and clear the mind for hours or at least like 20 or 30 minutes, and that's what meditation is. But we have to remember that the goal of meditation is not necessarily just to clear your mind. The goal of meditation is to connect to the divine, to connect to the universe, to connect to something outside of you. In the 8 limbs of yoga, they call this samadhi, and it is the end goal of all of the practices. So the practices like yoga, meditation, all of this leads to this end state, samadhi, connection to the divine. Now, I'm going to talk about this at the end. Actually, during the Q&A, someone asked a question that so I'm going to talk about what enlightenment can look like, and it doesn't necessarily come from it doesn't come in the meditative state, but the meditative state leads to it. So this is about how we need to change our perspective about it. Anything that you do that brings you down into an alpha state, that brings you closer to a connection to the divine, is meditative, right? So it doesn't mean we just have to sit there and clear our minds. So I'm going to talk a lot of tonight about different techniques you can try. So if you've ever said meditation doesn't work for me, I'm sure there's going to be one of these techniques that can work for you. And the other thing to remember is that your meditative techniques don't have to be the same all the time. So sometimes there's parts of my life where, yes, I can sit in that meditative state 20, 30, 40 minutes and just bliss out, right? Clear my mind. But there are other times that that isn't going to work for me. So rather than be frustrated about the fact that I can't do that during those times, I needed to find other techniques that would work for me during the times when I couldn't do that long, intense meditation. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Okay, so let's dive in and talk about some different meditative practices. So I'm going to start by essentially talking about the four categories that meditation fits into. These are general categories, so all of the things that I'll talk about afterwards will fit into these categories. And your goal here is to find which ones resonate for you. And so, especially if you're somebody who's watching this because you don't actually have a regular practice, you want to find which ones resonate, which ones kind of pique your interest, and then you're going to try to implement these at the end, okay? At the end of this, and hopefully in a week or a couple weeks, you can come back and you let me know what kind of progress you've made with it, okay? And if you're somebody who already has a practice, think about adding one of these in and just try something different. Okay, because you never know. Like when you try different practices, all of a sudden it can take your spiritual evolution to a new level. It can be that simple. Okay, so the four common types of meditation that all these practices fall into are concentrative, open awareness, mindfulness, and guided, sometimes called journeying. That is probably the one that's most common in the West, but we're going to talk about what all of these mean. Concentrative meditation is single pointed focus, and the focus can be on anything. It can be on an object, it can be on a sound, it can be an image, it can be on a candle flame, which we'll talk later. That's what candle gazing essentially is. The mind is essentially continues to move towards this image, this sound, whatever it is, and focuses on that and basically blocks out anything else that there is. Now, mantra meditation falls into this category. And so, while single focus meditation can be very difficult, so it can be difficult to just meditate on like one image, right? And try to hold that image for long term, that can be very difficult for us. So this is why mantra meditation can be so good. Now I'm going to talk about it a little bit more at the end, actually a lot more at the end, because I think it's such an accessible practice to people. But mantra meditation is where you meditate over a word or phrases, and you can use mala beads or other types of beads, and I'll show those at the end as well. But again, this is a very, very good type of meditation for people to try, especially if you've tried like just the clearing your mind technique and it doesn't work for you. This concentrated meditation or single focus meditation will actually can bring you into a space where meditation all of a sudden works. So it's one I highly recommend. And as we get into the more specific techniques, you'll want to listen for the one about mantra, okay? So, open awareness is the one that we traditionally think about when we think about meditation. So, this is that idea of clearing the mind, right? The mind is this pool or lake of water, body of water. And when we are not calm, right, there are waves on that surface, right? And allows us to not be able to connect outside of us, or at least not in the way that we want to. And so when we do open awareness meditation, our goal is to have the lake, that surface of the water, still enough that we can actually see what's going on in our internal landscape. So it's kind of like, think about it, if the water was moving and the moon was out, you wouldn't really be able to see the clear reflection of the moon. But if that water became still, all of a sudden we can gaze at it clearly. That's what open awareness is all about. Now, there are many different ways to do it. The one that's probably most common is Zen meditation. It's done as a counting meditation. So essentially, you begin to count from 1 up to 10, and then you go from 10 down to 1. And if at any point you lose focus, you just start over. And it's not meant to be a frustration of any kind. It's not meant to be like, I'm doing this wrong. It's just simply, if you go 1, 2, 3, and you're already lost the focus, you go back to 1, 2, 3, you lose the focus again, 1, 2, 3, and you keep doing it. And eventually, many people will find that they can do the practice up to 10 and then back down to 1. And then you do it over several series of that. And like I said, the key to it, though, is if your mind wanders, you simply acknowledge the fact that your mind has wandered, and then you just gently bring it back. It's all gentle, no frustration, and not meant to be thought of as, oh, I'm doing it wrong. But because it's so hard, people do get frustrated. And so this is what leads a lot of people to say, I can't meditate. So if you're somebody who, has tried open awareness but never tried the counting, try the counting. It can help. So just like in concentrative single focus, when you have something to have your mind guided by, it helps. Sometimes it helps. It's very hard for us to just clear our minds and just do nothing, right? So that is open awareness. Now, another type of meditation is called mindfulness, and there are a lot mindfulness meditation, and there are a lot of practices that fall into this one as well. So, really, what mindfulness meditation is, it's a combination of open awareness and unconcentrative or single focus. So, what you do is the focus, instead of it being on an image or being on a set of words or being on numbers or something like that, your focus is on an activity that you're doing. And not only that, but the feelings and the emotions and the things that are coming up while you're doing it. And the idea behind it is most of our lives we're on autopilot and we're not really aware of how we feel, what we're thinking. We're just going through the motions. But when we slow down and we practice mindfulness meditation, we begin to realize that there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on inside of us, and there's actually a lot more going on outside of us that we're not even aware of. And so this can be, like I said, not as narrow as concentrative, but you are essentially, you could do this while you're sweeping. Some people will just naturally fall into this state when they're doing like housework, things like that. I learned this very early on when I was a runner all through high school, and I would run, and those of you who run kind of long distance know that it is a form of meditation. So the brain goes into alpha state when you're running. That's the whole goal here, is we're going into alpha state. So this can be done through biking, through hiking, any kind of repetitive movement, through dancing. We'll talk a little bit about intuitive movement as well as a specific practice. But like I said, house chores is something that a lot of people will find that they go into this state. But another thing you can also use mindfulness for is for eating meals as well. So just paying attention to your food and how you chew it, and the emotions that are going on. We're often very detached from most of our activities. So even if you choose, like, this doesn't sound like this would be the practice you would do all the time, I would suggest just trying mindfulness during a meal, or try mindfulness just during your housework, and just really check in with what's going on with you and try to stay very concentrated on the task in ahead of you. Oftentimes that will then open up your awareness to more. And just saying hi to others who are joining. Hi, Kurt, and Melinda's here, and Jenny's here. Pamela's internet isn't working well, so she's going to get the replay. But so great to see everybody here. All right, so the next type, the fourth type of main types of meditation, is guided, often called journeying. Now, this is a very popular form of meditation in the West. It's a very popular form of meditation for witches. And the reason for that is because we can journey off to all of these distant places. We connect to the gods and the goddesses and the earth spirits and the elementals, and there's just so much potential for us as witches during journeying. Now, the idea, though, is that we'd have to be guided by someone. So you either have to be guided on a recording, or you have to be guided in a live class. Or you could find scripts online that you then record into your phone, and then you can guide yourself if you can bear your own voice, which I'm not entirely sure I can do that for myself. I record a lot of meditations for shadow seekers, and I was actually going to try one of my own meditations later tonight and see how it goes. But so if you like your own voice and can bear listening to it, you can record your own, or you can even make up your own. So, so journeying, though, what it does is it evokes images and states within, and it can be so powerful because it can take us to those far off places. It can help us, cross through the veils, get into, different dimensional states. Systematic relaxation is something that is often done prior to guided or journeying meditation. So systematic relaxation can be done a lot of different ways. I like to do a countdown to alpha when I'm guiding people through it. So you're just basically counting down and guiding them down into a deeper state. But you can also do body relaxation. So this is where you start by tensing up a part of your body, usually starting with the toes and the feet. You tense it very tight, and then you let it go. And then you move up to the ankles and the shins and the knees, and you just kind of move up all through the different body parts all the way until you get to the head. And what this does is basically the tensing and the relaxing helps to eventually take you down into that alpha state, which is the goal here. That's what we're trying to get into. And then it makes it easier to go on the journey or to like be guided by whoever's guiding you through it. So if you have tried meditate, if you never really tried guided meditation like this, and you're instead just trying that kind of open awareness meditation, I recommend trying guided journeying meditation. All that you need to do is find somebody's voice who you like. That's it. If you turn it on, you don't like their voice, turn it right off. It's not going to be helpful probably, but there's so many meditations out there on YouTube, and I love Insight Timer. It has a free version, and then also has a paid version. It's really affordable. It's like $20 a year or something. But there's just hundreds and thousands of meditations on there about just about anything. So I highly recommend that. That's called Insight Timer. And then again, you can just good old YouTube. You can find a lot on there. And again, like people will ask me what's a good meditation to do, and my answer is like honestly, I could give you some that I like, but that doesn't mean that you're going to like them. So I think the biggest key is just find a topic that you're interested in. So Google that, like I do fertility meditation, and then you just want to find one that you like their voice and go with it. All right, so that is journey and guided meditation. So now we are going to talk about alternative forms of meditation that kind of fit into these categories that are outside of just that sort of I'm in the Zen state and I'm just sitting here kind of meditation that is very hard for many of us. Um, and just checking the chat to see and then I see that Kurt has shared a meditation that he likes. Yeah, that's great. So if anybody wants to share some that they like here as well, that might help others out too. And I see this one's by Laurie Cabot, a very famous author. Hi, Misty. Good to see you too. Okay, so again, if anybody's here live, you can feel free to put comments, questions in the chat. We've got a Q&A at the end. It doesn't have to be about meditation. It can be about anything. And if you like what you're hearing, make sure to leave a thumbs up or a heart somewhere. It just helps us get it out to the feed of more people. Okay, so I'm going to talk about walking meditation first. So, walking meditation is a meditation that many people have never thought about trying. And so, this is a really good one for people who have trouble sitting still. So, if you're somebody who like gets into the meditative state and that's the first thing you say, I hear this a lot from people is I just couldn't sit still. Walking meditation is one that I would definitely try. In my educational therapy and tutoring practice, majority of my students have ADHD, and for them, meditation can be hard for that reason. And so I recommend walking meditation for them or some kind of movement meditation. There's a couple others I'm going to talk about as well. Okay, so walking meditation is not just the walk that you take after dinner every day or, the walk in the park. That's not what we're talking about here. You have to really make sure that you're setting this aside as meditation. Not to say that the walk in the park and the walk after dinner is not good. I do a lot of walking myself, but this is where we really come into the walk with the intention of it being meditative and with the intention of us getting into the alpha state. And so, what you do is you find a place where you can walk, and it's usually good to find a place that you could take like 10 to 20 really good steps. So, a long hallway in your house would be very good. If you can get somewhere in the yard where you just have to have the 10 steps, if you don't have like a private yard or space like that, see if you can do it inside. But again, like you really just need to be able to pace 10 or so steps. So that could just be the diagonal of a room. And this room I'm in, it's not very big, but I could absolutely do walking meditation across it diagonally. This is probably only like 100 square feet. And so what you do is while you're doing the walking, you you really just want to try to stay present on what you're doing. So if your mind starts to wander off to dinner, what you're going to cook for dinner, and the kids' homework, and what you're going to do tomorrow at the job, and all the different things, you just bring your mind back gently. So kind of like the idea in the concentrative meditation, you just or open awareness, you just bring it back gently. And you do this countless times. So you may have to do it countless times as you walk. And some people like to walk like with their hands behind their back like this. And what I think why this is so good is that so many of us kind of, without knowing, we slouch a little bit. But when you actually put your hands behind your back, it forces the chest forward, which actually opens up all the chakras and your sushumna, which is your main channel of energy that goes through the body. And basically, it opens that up and basically clears the pathway. So people will walk like that. And it can look a little bit strange, which is why it's best to do it where you're in a place where it's private, and you want to also make sure that it's safe, that you're not going to wander out into a street or something like that. And if you really feel safe, you can close your eyes. So if you know that you have a hallway or a spot where 10 paces won't make you run into something, you or 10 or 20 or whatever the count is, you'll just walk with the eyes closed, turn around when it gets to 10, 15, 20, and then come back the other way. So really interesting type of meditation. Like I said, I highly recommend it for people who have the complaint, I can't sit still. This is potentially one for you. And I would try it for 5 minutes or so at first. You can extend that to 10. You can go beyond that if you want. But I'm going to tell everybody tonight, 5 minutes is the way to try this. Start at 5 minutes, and anybody's capable of that. Okay. All right, other types of movement meditation would be labyrinth meditation. So you can do something similar at a labyrinth if you can find a place where one is built. Sometimes in cemeteries, they'll have labyrinths. We have one here at the Forest Hills Cemetery in LA, but there are others all over. So Google them, you'll find them all over the place. And you could go to one and you just basically walk the spiral and you walk back out. And a labyrinth is not a maze. It's not supposed to be confusing and like it's not a puzzle. It's literally, it just goes, spirals into the center and spirals back out. And the walk and the meditation is essentially you spiraling into like the womb of the earth, the goddess, your unconscious, whatever you want to think of it as, and then you kind of spiraling back out of it. You could do that same kind of idea. You just, if you can close your eyes, you do them. If not, just lightly open so you can still see around you. And you can put your hands behind your back and walk this labyrinth. You can also build one if you have room. I wish we had room here to build one, and I would build a big spiral one, but we don't have that. But if you have room to build one, that's also a great idea. So another type of movement meditation is intuitive movement, intuitive dance. They kind of both go into the same category. So this is where you are going to get yourself into the alpha state through letting your body guide you. This is where we disconnect from the mind. We disconnect, not really from the emotions, because they're still there and a lot of them will come up. I'm going to explain about that. But we essentially disconnect from the mind. And so the mind is not telling us what to do anymore. It's the body that's telling us what to do. So usually the best way to try this is to put on some music that you like and close your eyes. Make sure you're in a private space where you feel safe. Others aren't going to interrupt you because you really want to be able to let go of this. And then you just listen for your body's movement. And it's just going to feel like it wants to go this way or that way. And so you can think of it as dance if you want to. I'm not really a dancer. Never could be all the narratives that were told to me as a child when I left ballet school after a day. But I think of this more as movement, intuitive movement, but it could border on dance. And you just let yourself go and just let your body move. And many people will find when they do this and they really let go that all of a sudden they begin to cry or weep. And it's all these emotions that were stored inside of them that are being let go of. And so I will tell you that that has definitely happened to me. I really first practiced this when I was training to become a doula. It's a very good practice for pregnant women to do this, and it really helps them clear out emotions. But if you think you've got a lot of emotions stuck and a lot of stuck and stagnant energy, especially in the hips, solar plexus, heart, here in the center, I would try this practice 100%. It's connected to the sacral chakra. You're going to be shocked probably at what comes up if you really let go and try it. And I will tell you is that one key element of all of this, about anything you do in magic, is belief. So if you don't think this is going to work, for you, it's not going to work for you. But if you go into it with the intention that I'm going to try intuitive movement and I'm going to let go of some of that shit I'm carrying, you're going to let go of some of that shit that you're carrying. I promise you. You just have to go into it with the right frame of mind. It's all about intention and it's all about belief. Okay, so that is intuitive movement and dance. All right, so next up, let's talk about candle gazing. So candle gazing is it's a single focus or a concentrative type of meditation. Candle gazing is greatly beneficial for the third eye and for the pineal gland, and so I highly recommend it. So there's a question in the Q&A later where I'll talk a little bit more about it as well. But in candle gazing, essentially, you're going to light a candle and you really want it to be around eye level or maybe slightly below it. So I'm sitting here on the floor. So I have these little like lac tables. That's actually what that altar is on. So those are the little tables from IKEA. Very good level for this. And they sell them in different sizes. And then you'll put the candle on it and gaze at the candle. And what I like to do is kind of turn the lights down. Maybe I put on like a salt lamp in the background just so there's a little bit of ambient light. And then you gaze at this candle. And you don't have to, like, sometimes people try to not blink. You absolutely blink. You can absolutely blink, but you're just gazing at it and you're trying to focus on it. And what people will find is they can do it for a bit of time and then the eyes will start to feel very tired or strained or they tear up. If you start to tear up, that's totally natural. And so then I would just recommend that people close the eyes, just rest them for a few breaths, and then you open them up again and then you start the gazing again. And try this for like all these practices. I'm saying 5 to 10 minutes. Start at the 5 minute mark, build up to 10 minutes. If you're really going with and you want more, what you'll often find is that it will lead, somehow it opens up your life so now you have more time just when you do 5 minutes of this. But try it for 5 minutes and see how it goes. Great, great practice. And like I said, this is single focus or concentrated meditation. Now, mantra meditation is also another form of single focus or concentrated meditation. Now, I love mantra meditation because it keeps people doing something. And not only that, it's like, so you have something going on in your mind, but you have something going on in your body. And studies show that when we integrate the senses, we're actually more likely to achieve whatever we're trying to achieve. We've known this for decades. So even when I was teaching, I used to teach little kids how to read who were dyslexic. And one thing that we would do is we have these little colored blocks that stood for sounds. And when they were building their words, they would build them with these little colored blocks. And you would have to say the sound and you'd have to touch the block. And there are studies that show that when they just say the sound, it's not as effective as when they also touch the block. So we're integrating the senses here. This is why mala meditation is so effective. Rosary has the same goal, right? They're counting all the prayers on the beads. So if you don't like the idea of rosaries, if you don't like the idea of malas because of the religions that they come from, it's totally fine. You can just think of this as bead meditation and get yourself a strand of beads and you can do it. So here I'm going to show you, this is a mala that a student of mine sent to me shortly after the pandemic began. All my students know I do meditation and teach all of this, and so they sent me this beautiful mala. And this one, usually they'll have some kind of a big stone on the bottom. And what I love about this one is that it has a stone, like it has like a different kind of stone here up at the very top. And so the idea with the malas is that they are 108 beads. 108 is a significant number in many spiritualities. And so the center one would tell us that we were at 54. So it's just a way to be like, you've made it halfway. So I kind of like that idea, especially for people who are having trouble focusing and and kind of impatient. It's kind of okay, we made it halfway. So I kind of like that a lot. Okay, so the idea here then is that you start. You generally will start down on. At least I start on the big center bead. and then you touch the first one, you close your eyes. You can sit up if you want, but here's another thing I haven't said yet at all tonight is that that can be half the battle for people. People have bad backs, they have like pain in the body, and sitting like this for a long period of time is really hard for people. And so I'm going to tell you right now is all you need for meditation is a straight spine. We just need the sushumna open. That's it. And so that can be done lying down. So I'm giving you permission to lie down and get comfortable when you do your meditation if you want to. And I will, as an aside, what yoga actually is, the asana practices, what those were developed for was so that people would build the strength in the inner part of the body so they could sit straight up for those long periods of time. So if you're not doing yoga, you may not have the ability to sit that long. So just give yourself permission, get comfortable. You just need to do meditation, that's all. Okay, so you're going to start on the first bead and you'll say a mantra. So you feel free to make up any one you want. I heard one so beautiful last night. And this one is from one of my mentors, and she was on a group call that I hadn't watched, and I was watching on a replay. And she said, it was a good one for forgiveness. And I'm going to mess it all up because I can't remember it right now. But I think it was like, the waves of forgiveness wash over me. My heart is a flood with love, or my heart is filled with love. And so you would just say that, right? The waves of forgiveness wash over me. My heart is filled with love. And then you go to the next one. The waves of forgiveness wash over me. My heart is filled with love. And you go to the next one. And there's 108. And you know what? If that's too much, do the 54 or just do 20. Who cares? It's just the idea is there's nothing that says you have to do 108. The idea is this is a tool to help you stay focused. But now let me say, I am going to share something else because while I love mantras just in general, I really love mantras in Sanskrit. And there's a lot of reasons for this. Many of you have probably heard me talk about this before. Sanskrit is a vibrational language. That means that it carries energetic change, the ability to energetically change us in addition to the meanings behind the words. And so when you utter a mantra in Sanskrit, there's lots of benefits. So one, you're changing your energetic composition in a way that mantras in English or other languages don't. And number two, I think of these as like spells and incantations. That's really what these are. There is a mantra that soldiers would cry, or they would intone before they would go into battle. And there are stories that say that when they would say this mantra, that they would come back unscathed, that they'd go and be outnumbered, right? And they would come back unscathed because it was such a protective mantra. So these are spells, and we're witches. So when I discovered these types of mantras, my mind was blown. And the things that they've done in my life, mind was blown, right? So there are mantras that have helped me make good amounts of money at times when I set my mind to it. There were mantras that helped me change, just my energetic state. So one that I particularly love, and I'll put it in the chat afterwards, is Om Gum Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gum Ganapataye Namaha. Now you can think of it a couple of different ways. One way is that this is just simply a mantra that removes obstacles. If you do this mantra for 5 minutes every day, I promise you your life will change. I promise you. I don't see how it can't. You got to go in, right? Like I said, belief is all. It's a belief and intention. But another way you can think of this mantra is what it really essentially means. Om is it says hello. It's a salutation. Gum is the seed sound for Ganesha, the remover of obstacles. He is the god who lives, it's said he lives in the root chakra of all people, and he's the one who clears our paths of the blockages that are there. Ganapataye is his name. Ganapata is one of his names, and we put ye on the end. It's like saying dear Ganesha. And then at the end, namaha is just like I honor you, I salute you. So essentially, it's like saying hello to the remover of obstacles. I honor you. Bring this energy into my life is essentially what you're doing. So if you're interested in it, get some beads. You don't even have to have the malas or the beads. Just do it. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. And this can be a life-changing practice for people when they really get into it. Okay, so that is mala meditation, mantra meditation. And I will put that, I'll put the spelling of that mantra in the chat as well. I'm actually going to go to the chat just to make sure I'm not missing anything here. I see that Misty says she does intuitive movement and dance every night as she listens to her music, and it helps a lot. Yeah, that is a great spiritual practice to be doing it, and she's doing it every night, so she's got the regularity. And that is going to be a key that I'm going to talk about here at the end, because that is the belief and intention and the regularity. I shouldn't even say regularity, but the consistency is the key. And I see Cindy says she loves mirror and candle gazing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that too. And then Jenny said, my friend makes pagan prayer meditation beads focusing on the elements, deities, etc. And she's seen them on Etsy. Oh, that's awesome. Yes, I think I love the idea too of having them connected to the elements or different deities. Does your friend, if your friend has a store, send me a link to that. I would love to see that. Or you can put it in the chat. That would be awesome. All right, so a few other types of meditation, and then I'm going to go to the Q&A. Coloring is a great form of meditation. So again, if you're somebody who said, I can't sit still, I can't do traditional forms of meditation, try coloring. There's a lot of great coloring books for adults now, and there are great witchy ones as well. So great type of meditation. You just need to, again, remember the idea here is you just need to get into that alpha state. That's all we're looking for. Um, there's another type of meditation that's called yantra meditation. So this is typically meditation on an image. And so these are specialized images. And I remember I had a teacher years ago who warned about yantra meditation. And I think there was this idea that you could I don't know. Sometimes people think you can go crazy doing some of the practices. Again, I think that this is all about belief and intention. If you start doing like yantra meditation for 8 hours a day, you might go crazy because you left everything else from your life, like you've let it go, right? So, really, not looking for this is not about quantity, this is all about quality. But yantra is essentially just a specific symbol that you would gaze at, and I wish that I had them here. I don't have them, so I'll probably show them at the next episode because we're doing Third Eye next week. But Tattva cards are very good. It's spelled Tattva, or sometimes just Tatta. It's usually Tattva. Tattva is the name of element in Sanskrit. And so these are cards that have the symbols of the elements on each of them, and you gaze at those, and there's a lot of other things you can do with them, but they can be used for this, for just like a concentrative meditation. So I really love that. So at the end of the day, I kind of mentioned this a couple of times. The most important thing here is consistency. You just need 5 to 10 minutes a day. That's all you need here. And so I think that's something that gets in the way of people. And I know this gets in the way of me because I want so badly to be able to do all of this for an hour, 2 hours. I would love to have 2 or 3 hours at the end of the night to do my yoga and meditation and my breath work and all of it, right? And I used to have that time in my life until it got to be where it is now. And I know that someday I'll have that time again, but that time isn't right now. It's too busy right now. And so we really need to shift our perspective about this. It's not quality, it's not quantity, it's quality. You just need 5 to 10 minutes. And think about it this way. Most people are not even sleeping for 8 hours a night, but these numbers, I'm a math teacher. So these numbers, these calculations I'm going to do for you right now are based on someone sleeping 8 hours a night and up 16 hours a day. Okay. So if you don't even sleep that much, you actually have more time than those people. But if you sleep 8 hours a day, you are up for 960 minutes. And if you meditate for 5 minutes a day, that's 0.5% of your time. So let it sink in. Do you think this is important enough to you in order to take out 0.5% of your time? Because if you can't find the time for yourself for that, then you really, I think, need to reevaluate where your life is. Okay. So it's not to come down at anybody or be mean, but it's something I've had to like wake myself up as well. If we can't, if we can't give ourselves that much, like we really need to reevaluate what's going on. So the key again is consistency. And you don't want to overcomplicate this. So you just want to pick something I said here tonight that you can do, that you can try, and you're going to try to stick to it for 5 minutes on most days. It doesn't even have to be every single one of them. I'm all about setting goals that are achievable. I do this with my students all the time, and people aim big and they want big things. And they all, one of the biggest things we do is we set goals that are too big for us. And let me back up. As witches, we can manifest anything we want, but sometimes we have to do this in smaller steps. So 5 minutes, we can all achieve that, right? And that means that we're going to be successful. And usually what happens is if you can start doing this for 5 minutes on most days, what you're going to find is somehow the universe finds you more time. It's just weird the way it works like that. But if you get aligned, everything starts to align for you as well. Okay, and it really, like I'm telling you, 5 to 10 minutes is all that's required to see lasting change as long as you do it on most days. Okay, so I'm going to say there are people who asked questions that are very similar to what I'm about to talk or that I'm talking about. So I'm going to move into the Q&A now, and so let's answer some questions. And if you're here live, put some in the chat. Okay, like I said, it doesn't have to be about meditation, but it can be about anything you want. Okay, so I'm going to start with a question from Beverly. And Beverly said, how do you meditate in a busy household? So this is a question that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. Most people have busy households, or at least many people do. And it can be hard to find the time. It can be hard to find the space. It can be hard to set up the boundaries that's required to just take the time for yourself. So there really isn't, for me, there isn't really an easy way around this. You just need to find quiet, private time. But remember, you only need 5 to 10 minutes, okay? So you should be able to find 5 to 10 minutes. And this is my suggestion, is the bathroom. So the bathroom is a place where you can just close the door, and people know that when the door is closed, at least I hope they know that they respect your boundaries and they don't come busting in there. But the door is closed, that's your private time. Now, my bathroom has this very loud fan that turns on, so that would like drown out anything that was going on outside of here, and then just do a 5 minute meditation practice in there. And it can be any of these things. You can pick anything off the list: the candle gazing, concentrate on an image, do the counting, do the mala, the mantras, anything you want to do. If you don't have a bathroom that has the fan that turns on and makes noise, get a white noise app on your phone, turn that on, set a timer for 5 minutes, and you're good to go. Okay, so if you're worried about kids, like if you're worried about taking that much time in the bathroom, then you can always do this when they're sleeping. That's a suggestion. But remember, again, I'm going to come back to this a million times. You only need the 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so just start out with that and see what happens. Now you can also consider, like I said, the alternate forms of meditation. If the traditional forms don't really work for you, you could try the candle gazing, mala, I already said all that, walking, or the intuitive movement can be really good as well. But that would be my suggestion: 5 minutes in the bathroom. And like I said, you start the practices and you'll be surprised. Get consistent, and it just somehow the universe opens up more time for you. Okay, next question is related. So Aldous said, how do you do it regularly within irregular days? So it's tough when your schedule isn't a normal schedule. So people who have like kind of the 9 to 5 schedule, they kind of know where's the time in the day when they can do it. But when your schedule's crazy, and mine is always, there's all these different things going on, it can be hard sometimes. So while you do need a consistent practice, it doesn't have to be done at the same time every day. So it doesn't have to have that like regularity of it. It just needs to have the consistency. But I will tell you that regularity can help. So if there's any way to find time, even in an irregular day or like kind of a strange irregular schedule, if there's any way to find a regular time, I do suggest it first. So what you could do is 5 to 10 minutes in the beginning or the end of the day could work. So that would just mean the alarm is set 5 to 10 minutes early, or you extend 5 to 10 minutes past your bedtime, or you build that into your bedtime routine. I think that that will help in the majority of cases. But if that doesn't help, it really doesn't matter when you do it. You just figure out on the kind of like look at your crazy schedule and you figure out where you have the 5 to 10 minutes to do it. And that's where you're going to put the practice. You can set a reminder on your phone at a specific time as well. And you can just take a 5 to 10 minute break. So the reminder can just say, take a 5 to 10 minute break. And then that's your meditative space. And then you try one of the practices. So again, doesn't have to be I'm zenning out, I'm clearing my mind. It can be get some beads and just do a mantra for 5 minutes. And that is already meditation. Or, just do some intuitive movement, even in the bathroom for 5 minutes. And that can be your meditation. Um, at the end of the day, like I said, consistency is the most important thing. Is just set up, you make the deal with yourself. I'm doing it 5 minutes, and it doesn't matter where you do it. Okay, so I hope that helps. All right, let me check the chat here. Okay. All right, so Angel said, I bet there's people who are going to relate to this one. All right, so she said, how do you keep focus during meditation when your husband, who is not a believer, keeps interrupting you? He'll holler from another room or want to talk. This is why I wait until early in the morning or when no one's home. Okay, so it doesn't have to be your husband. It could be anybody who's trying to disrupt you. And so I believe this does sound like an issue. And it's not because he's a non-believer. It's because it sounds like he's not respecting your boundaries. So if you haven't already tried setting boundaries, that would be my first suggestion. Tell him, explain to him why this is important to you. He doesn't have to be a believer. My boyfriend doesn't believe in half this stuff we do, but he respects when I have my rituals in here. He respects the space. He doesn't come in and interrupt me. So you'd be surprised. Maybe if you have the heart to heart and you just say, this is so important to me. Can you just, I'm going to be going in there for 10 minutes and I just ask that you don't interrupt me for those 10 minutes. And you might be surprised. Maybe you think he's not going to say okay, but I sure would hope he would if he cares that much about you. Um, and tell him that he doesn't have to believe in it, but you do. You know how to have the heart to heart with him. So set the boundaries, see what happens. I hope that that will be successful. If he can't respect them, then you need to ask probably yourself and him why that is, why he wouldn't be able to respect something so simple like that, just asking for the 5 to 10 minutes, okay? But I do want to say that it is also okay to do what you said, to meditate when people are asleep or no one's home. Personally, it took me years to discover this, but I am an empath. I thought I was just working with empaths for years until I realized that I was one. And so I do pick up people's energy, which is why I find I can't really meditate anytime other than the night when others are asleep, because they're tuned out. Everybody's tuned out, and I'm not picking up anything from anybody. It's just me. So it is okay to just do that at the end of the night or when other people are sleeping or not there. All right, so I hope that helps. Okay, next question is from Kurt. So Kurt said that I gotta shift my leg here if I can. Okay. So Kurt said he can meditate at what he considers a fairly deep level, but what is the deepest that you can go? And then I kind of asked him to elaborate on it. And he said, what can you see, feel in the moment of that enlightenment is reached? Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts on this. I have had about 2 to 3, I would say I've had 3 Kundalini awakenings, one extremely intense one, the other 2 were pretty intense. Kundalini awakening in those moments is probably the closest thing that we can talk about as being enlightenment. Now, one of the things that I discovered after my first one, and I'm going to tell you what happened during mine, but after I discovered what I discovered after the first one is I tried to chase it. I wanted another one, and it's not the right way to approach any of this. These things cannot be chased. Enlightenment cannot be chased. It is a state that is achieved at the end of all of these practices. It's the goal of all of what we do. And it's something that we may only have a few fleeting moments in our lifetime, but we're all traveling toward that point. We're trying to become as enlightened as we can in this incarnation. So there's less work to do in the in between, eventually to perhaps exit out of this cycle of reincarnation in this particular plane. But it's not something that we can particularly chase, but we set up our lives so that we're focused on achieving it eventually. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. But so what I want to say is that the idea of asking how deep you can go may not be the right question to ask, and here's why. In deep meditation, we are trying to go low, right? Okay, so like when we go into meditation, we're going into alpha, and then we will eventually, if we go deeper, we'll eventually go into theta. Theta is like a state of trance. It's a state where messages can come through very easily. This is where we're trying to get people to when they're being hypnotized or self-hypnotized. Theta is like the state of the in-between, between sleep and wake. You're very suggestive during that time. So when we take people into theta during a journey, the idea is that they're very suggestive so that they're open to anything that's coming through. But it's not really what enlightenment is. Enlightenment is when we essentially understand that we are spirit in body, spirit in material and matter. And while we can theoretically say that we understand that, we don't really fully get it until it happens. So the moment it happened to me, I was like, it's not anything that you can tell people how it works or what happens. It's mind blowing when it happens. But what's happening, right, is that when we're going deep, 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 deep into that meditation, what we're doing is it's more grounding, right? But in order for enlightenment to happen, the energy in the body has to rise up. That's what the Kundalini awakening is. It's really the opposite direction. So what we do is we ground down, you do all the practices, and one day something kind of triggers the awakening and your energy shoots up through the sushumna from the root all the way through the top of the crown, and immediately you're connected to all. You realize that you are not in this body anymore. You have that very fleeting small moment of enlightenment. And for me, when it happened, it was through eye gazing. And that's one thing. It's one thing I didn't talk about here, and probably should do a whole episode on this. But it happened during eye gazing, and it was prompted through hours and hours and hours of silence during a yoga training that when in my very first yoga training, and we had a silent hours and hours and hours of silence where no one could communicate. You couldn't even look at people because looking in their eyes is communication. And so you essentially go through this period of time when you it almost feels like you're dead in a way. It was very weird. And then we started to come out of the state and we were asked to sit and we held hands with a partner and just stared into their eyes. And at first, it was cool. It was cool. And then I remember the facilitator, they were doing like an om, like a sound bath was going on too. And she said, I'm going to get chills just thinking about it. She said, pull the veils back. And as soon as she said that, it was like the veils were pulled back. And I saw this woman in front of me, her face began to change. And she was an old woman, and then a child, and then a man, and all these images. And what I realized is I was seeing all of her incarnations, all of her past ones, and all of her future ones, all there in front of me. And I began to cry. And, and she was crying too. And I remember I thought she was having the same experience. And afterwards, when I talked to her, and in fact, I talked to other people around, nobody had had that experience, just me. And then it kind of snapped shut after a few minutes. But during that moment, it was like I saw through the veil. I completely saw through the veils. And later, I tried to chase it, and it doesn't work. But I did figure out a way to do it. We do enough kundalini. That is a key. That is really a key to these kind of kundalini awakenings. If you do enough kundalini exercises, eventually you can get, I've had a couple of them happen where the energy a lot of it's like hip movement in some of them, and the energy just kind of gets dislodged in the root and it shoots out through the crown. And those are the moments where, for a moment, it's like almost like an out of body experience. I experience myself as pure spirit. Um, and it's like, all the secrets of the universe, which is that you are pure spirit. And then eventually you're pulled back down into the body, and you wait for the next one. But so anyway, I just wanted to share my experiences with this, because I think the way of thinking about enlightenment is like all the meditation, it creates the grounding, and that's what we need. You need to ground down, get the roots down, and then the energy has the ability to rise up in these moments like this. Okay, so I hope that helps that. And then I just wanted to mention, let's see if there's any other questions in here. Um, Samantha says she's very excited to bring the road opening mantra into her routine. Feeling so stuck lately, it sounds perfect. It will dislodge stuff for sure. Yeah, I'll put that in the chat as soon as I end the video. You're going to love it. Okay, Cindy said she finds that if she lights a candle in front of a mirror and meditates, she can make a connection with her horned god. So that's the god she's been working with. She said it's happened 4 times so far. And so I think that candle gazing, very effective, like I mentioned earlier, very effective form of meditation. It stimulates the third eye. It stimulates the pineal gland, which also connects to the crown as well, which is why it's not surprising to me that a person would connect to a deity or other kinds of spirits that way. So very effective practice. Now, scrying with the mirror is often thought of as a divinatory practice, but can also be a meditative technique. It just kind of depends on what you're doing it for. So I really love the idea of people, using even a mirror to meditate. I will tell you that after I had that experience with the girl staring in her eyes, I tried to stare in my own eyes in the mirror, and I could never get the experience to happen again. So see, that's the chasing. It's like you have to do the practices without the expectation, because anytime that things have opened up for me, really big time, it was when I didn't really expect. I didn't go in with expectations. I just went in and I was doing the practice, and then the opening came. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that about Cindy. Yeah, so I think for those who have never tried kind of mirror gazing, it is worth trying too, because it can be a meditative technique as well. And then Kurt had asked a second question about my thoughts on using meditation to control pain or eliminate it. And he said also to control stress, anger, depression, like negative emotions. So I absolutely believe that meditation can be used to do wild things. I know for myself that I have been able to control pain, to change um, uh, what am I with the tightness in my muscles or the tension in my body. I've been able to, through meditation and through suggestion, I've been able to get my body to loosen up in a way it shouldn't be able to. So I highly believe that meditation can be used to help with pain. It can be used to help with stress, anger, depression, any of those emotions. If you do the meditation enough, I think the mantra meditation is very effective for those things. I also think that adding breath work in with the meditation can be very helpful for depression and anxiety. It's very good for cleansing and clearing the mind, and it can be really amazing. And so, if you have 10 minutes, what you can do is 10 minutes of the meditation, 5 minutes of the meditation and 5 minutes of breath work. And if you have more, do more. But pair breath work with the meditation, in particular like fast breathing, like breath of fire, which is just like, and then you close the mouth and breathe through the nose. And you do like start at 1 minute, go up to 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Very purifying for the breath. Really was able to change. I have a lot of anxiety. It was really able to be a game changer for me. But yes, can definitely be used to change pain. And what I recommend people do is, if you've got like a lot of tension in your body, experiment with this and get into kind of a meditative state and send your intention and your breath to that part of the body. So you inhale very deeply, and when you exhale, imagine sending the breath and sending your intention to that part of the body. So let's say the shoulder, very, very tight and painful. And then we just say, we encourage the shoulder to open up. And what you'll find is that a lot of times it will open up a little bit. It'll relieve some of the tension. Sometimes it relieves a lot of it. But usually you got to be really, really, really relaxed in order to do that. So taking like passion flower, lemon balm, some kind of herbal tinctures that are relaxing to the body and the mind can be a good idea before doing that, or CBD oil or something like that. Even THC, just in a very small dosage, can be helpful in like it's like it takes the edge off of everything, gets you into a little bit of a deeper state, and then from there you're just more receptive. But then you begin to send the intentions to that part of the body and just have it relax. And in a lot of ways, it can be like almost like as effective as a muscle relaxer, just with the power of your intention in your mind. But again, it comes back to belief. I see Wendy said sometimes her anxiety gets so bad it's hard to relax in a meditation because letting go of control makes her feel more anxious. Hence the cycle grows. How can I help with my anxiety? Yeah, so I would recommend, like, if you tolerate herbs, try lemon balm or passion flower, one of those, very, very safe for people, and try it at night because they will relax you and help you sleep, and you can see if that takes some of the edge off of it. But what it could also be, perhaps, is I don't know if what you're talking about is like you're in seated meditation or lying down meditation, but it's sort of the way with like trying to go to sleep. If you're trying to go to sleep and you can't, and then you just start to panic because you can't, right? And then that makes you stay up, and then you panic because you're up, and then you're up, right? And it's just this cycle. And so it's very similar to that. So what I would recommend is try a different kind of meditation, something that you're going to move your body during. So maybe try the mala, try the beads, and see if that helps, or try the walking meditation, or the intuitive movement. And you're in Shadow Seekers. We have an intuitive movement practice in the alignment practices part of the membership portal. So you could try that. But I would just say is like if the practice that you're doing is causing you anxiety, it's not going to help. And so you just need to find a different one. And what you may find is if you try a different form of meditation, like walking or candle gazing or malas or whatever, mantras, you may, I would suspect, be able to then go back to kind of just like the seated or the lying down meditation. But yeah, just try something different. Anytime that there's anxiety, it's a sign that we're not aligned with something, and if it seems that it's perpetuating it even worse, we want to get out of that state. Yeah, so try something different, and at the very least, try the beads maybe. I think you might. I found a lot of help with that because of anxiety. They really help to bring it down. Okay, I hope that helps. Okay, anybody have any other questions? Put them in the chat. I know this is a long one today. I'm just going to mention while I'm waiting to see if there's any final questions. Next week on 124, we have an episode on the third eye and intuition, and I'm going to remember to bring the Tatva cards to show everybody. And then on 131, we have an episode on Imbolc. Imbolc's coming soon. And we have our Imbolc ritual for Covenant Midnight's Flame. I believe it's going to be on Saturday, February 3rd, but we haven't finalized the date yet. If you're in Shadow Seekers, you have an invite to that. Of course, Covenant Midnight's Flame is coming to that. But if you are not in either of those, you'll be able to purchase a ticket by donation for as little as $1. And so just look, and as we get closer, you'll see some places where you can do that. And so I hope you'll enjoy that. And then our Shadow Seekers membership will be opening up in another month or so. So if you want to do more of this work at a deeper level with me and the rest of the Shadow Seekers, you can look for those posts as well. We won't be open though for, I think, about like another 6 weeks or so. But we always open for new members. We'd love for you to join us. And I see Trisha D is here. Trisha D, she says, thank you for being such a being of light. Thank you for being such a being of light, too. I love you, Trisha D. All right. I love all of you. And I'm going to sign off, but I hope you have a great rest of your night. Until next time.